my name is Taylor Smith, aka the Career Coach, and today I'm talking about the perfect resume. How to get yourself to stand out to recruiters and be the top candidate on their radar. So if you are interested in learning more about this, then this video is 100% dedicated to you. So keep on watching so you can get all of that information. Until then, again, my name is Taylor Smith, aka the Career Coach, and I help college students and professionals get noticed by recruiters, stand out as a top candidate, and get offers for paid internships and full-time opportunities. If any of that resonates with you, then you are in the right place, and we are gonna go ahead and continue with the video. So the resume is the foundation of any application process, no matter if you decide to go the traditional route, applying directly online using search engines, going through a career fair, or possibly even using LinkedIn, which has become very popular within the last 5 to 10 years. But no matter what, you need to make sure that your resume is very sharp, because everything else is really based off of your resume and your experience. So it's extremely important to have your resume tailored in order to catch the attention of recruiters. Even if you may not have all the directly related experience or the requirements that a position calls for, that's okay. There is a way to tweak your resume in order for it to still sound good and show that you have very valuable transferable skills no matter where you may have worked in the past, etc. And we're going to talk about all of that a little bit more and what are the main things that you need to focus on when creating this resume. However, if you are willing and wanting to learn more about the different types of ways that you can apply for positions, like I mentioned before, the search engines, career fairs, and using LinkedIn, then I want you to go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you are alerted when I post my video next week, when I will be discussing all of this and the pros and cons between each, and really help you understand and figure out which is the best method for you when you are going through this career search. But with that said, we're going to break this down a little bit more and discuss what are the tips and tricks that I have in order to help you build this resume that's going to make you stand out to recruiters. So the first tip is to have a neat and simple format to your resume. So a lot of people really like to include these special resume templates that have all this color to it. I've even had people ask me if they should include bar graphs, etc. on their resume, but the reality of it is that you don't need all of that. Honestly, the average recruiter looks at your resume for only about 5 to 6 seconds. If they're intrigued, then they'll keep looking at it maybe an additional 30 seconds. And if they're really captivated and want to learn more about you, then they may look at it for a couple more minutes. But in actuality, no one is really looking at your resume that much. No one really cares how pretty it looks, etc. As long as it looks neat, as long as it's organized, that's the most important thing. For more information on creating a polished resume, you can watch this video here. But the main thing that you want to do is just make sure that you have an organized structure. Everything is clean and neat, because you want it to still be appealing to the eye, but overall you want to focus more on the content and the quality of your resume, not necessarily so much on how it looks. And just to reiterate, as a recruiter, I'm going to pay more attention and remember somebody based off of the experience they have and what they bring to the table, how they were able to accurately depict some of the skills that are transferable to the workplace in this current position, rather than just how your resume looks, how cute it is, how pretty it is, how flashy it is, etc. So just wanted to throw that out there. Unless there's anybody who's still kind of unsure and they're like, I still want to use this beautiful template, it's okay. If you use the boring template, that's perfectly fine. It's more about the content. And if I can tell that you may have spent more time on how your resume looks versus the content that's on your resume, what does that say about you? Just taking a reflection back and thinking yourself as the recruiter. So just wanted to throw that out there as a tip. I know that this may be kind of hard for some people to swallow, especially people who really like cutesy stuff. I know I fell in that category for a long time, but I really want you to understand the importance of making sure that you have good quality content on your resume and not just worried about how it looks. Number 2 is to include metrics in your resume. So all of your bullet point descriptions, and we're not going to do paragraphs paragraphs. We're doing bullet point descriptions because this gives you a brief summary and catches the recruiter's attention very quickly, because like we said, they're only looking at it for about 5 to 6 seconds unless they're really intrigued and they continue looking at your resume. So with that said, you want 80 to 90% of your bullet point descriptions to include some kind of metric or number that explains the magnitude of something that you've done. And the reason you want to include this because it just makes you sound even that more impressive, and that's what people care about at the end of the day. Numbers. How much money did the company make? How many people did we serve? How many improvements did we make? How much time did we save? People are always about the numbers. When you get in the position, they're going to care about numbers the whole time. When you do report outs, that's what they care about, numbers. So you want to make sure that you're incorporating numbers into your resume as well. If you need help with that, check out this video right here where I talk about SMART descriptions. The SMART is just an acronym that stands for specific, metrics, achievements, relevancy, and time bound. So this is usually related to goal setting, but this is also going to talk about how you can apply this also to your resume to make very smart descriptions that include metrics and what we're going to talk about in the next tip. And just to add on to that, metrics really give you a better idea or picture of something. So for example, let's say that I was a team lead or something like that, or maybe the chapter president of my organization. I could say that I led a team to success within these categories. Okay, cool. That's good, right? But how many people are on that team? That could literally be 1 to 2 people, 5 to 6 people, what have you. But if I were to tell you that I led a team of 30 executive board members, that's way more impressive, right? If I were to tell you that I managed an account of $10,000, that's going to be way more impressive because I'm putting it more into perspective, and it gives them a better idea of how you may fit in with the amount of work that they have to do as well. So this is also why you want to make sure you're incorporating metrics on your resume. So number 3 is to include accomplishments on your resume. So again, with the SMART descriptions, again, this video is right here for you to watch. This is talking more so about the impact or the purpose of why you did certain things within your job, right? So I'm not just saying that I managed the cash register if all I did was a cashier, but I managed the cash register $5,000 on a daily basis and counted the money at the end of each shift to confirm a 3-way match with the manager and the system for security reasons, you know? And you can clean up that description a little bit better. This is just kind of me off the fly. But also, you know, you really just want to explain why you did certain tasks, you know, going back to retail potentially, right? I worked at Abercrombie where I was a sales associate. Basically, I folded clothes and I checked people out in the store. But how can I make that sound better versus just saying I folded clothes? Well, I standardized 2,500 articles of clothing on a daily basis in order to increase the customer experience by having them categorized by color, size, and style, you know? And again, that's just off the dome. We can clean up that sentence a little bit more, but I'm explaining to you why specifically did I fold the clothes. Not only that, I'm putting a fancy term on it, right? Standardization, this is something that is important to companies and they value, depending on the organization, of course, right? But I'm aligning it to what the company is looking for, right, as far as a candidate. And I'm also including, you know, the terms, the buzzwords that they're most interested in, but I'm also explaining to you, why did I do this? What was the purpose of it? What impact did it leave on everyone else, right? If you were to work on a specific project, you know, if I'm an engineer, I designed, I designed 20 reactors for a specific chemical process, or maybe 20 units, I don't know, what have you. Y'all get the idea. I want to explain why we worked on the project. What was the purpose of it? What field was it for? What kind of customer? You can't say the customer's name all the time, but these are different types of information that you want to include, right? I held weekly recitation classes in order to improve the students' retention and scores, and they were able to achieve this % of retention or this % and their grade increases, etc. So this is including these accomplishments with the metrics, right? Which are these SMART descriptions. So again, for more information, watch this video, but this is why this is so important to include on your resume, and it's really going to make you stand out to recruiters, because they're looking for people that are going to give this detail, and they're really going to understand what was the purpose or the business justification or reason for why you did these things. Number 4, I want you to add projects and leadership experience also to your resume on top of your relevant experience. So if you're someone who just doesn't really have a lot of work or relevant experience, then you are definitely going to lean on these projects and this leadership experience, because this is going to be the only thing that you can really reference at this time. And at the same time, you're still including these SMART descriptions for these different projects and leadership positions as well. We're modeling the same behavior. But if you do have a lot of relevant experience, it may be good to also add some leadership experience to your resume as well. Of course, something that's still slightly relevant, but that shows some of your leadership skills, especially if you haven't been in a lead position before, and that's kind of the path that you're looking for. Also, including different projects that you may have done independently, or maybe if you're a college student, you've done a couple internships, but they may not be directly related with what you want to do as a career long term. But you have these projects that you've done in class because you decided that you are interested more in supply chain or business. You're an engineering major. So I do have like this business proposition project that I worked on. I can add to my resume to show that experience. Or I can show you my senior design project. I may have not have done technical internships like I would have wanted to that directly relate, but this is what I've done in the classroom that shows I have this traditional engineering mindset and skill set. But what have you, doesn't matter your discipline, your background, etc. Doesn't have to be engineering. That's just where I pull from, because that's a lot of my experience. However, including these to your resume are really going to help diversify yourself and really make you stand out, because this isn't something that people add all the time. Also, these bring a lot of valuable skill sets and a lot of basic and fundamental skills that you will use in the workplace. Let's say you're the secretary of an organization. This is teaching you how to create emails, correspondence, right? Maintaining communication with people. This could also include doing different types of presentations, etc., which you will use a lot in the corporate world, especially. So that's why that could be valuable. Being like a treasurer or something like that, you're learning about finances, money management, budgeting, leading teams as some kind of president, committee chair, vice president, membership services, planning events, programs, etc. And even if a lot of this doesn't seem like it's directly related to the position that you're applying to, I promise you there's some small sliver in there where it directly relates to what you might do on a daily basis, but it's so minute, or a weekly basis, or it's just a good skill to have overall. This also shows that you have good time management, right? Not only do you know how to take care of your business at the workplace, but you also know how to juggle being a leader and doing all these other different things within the community, or servicing other people while still getting your stuff done. So these are also really good to add to your resume as well, to diversify yourself and also kind of make you stand out. I even had like a small business in college, and adding a business is, it really just depends. I have some videos here that talk about this more, sections to include on your resume, and also I think it's called 10 ways to build your resume. But either way, I added this business on my resume that I made cupcakes, and I kind of became the cupcake girl. So that was really easy for this recruiter to remember. Oh, I really liked that cupcake girl. Obviously, the cupcake girl thing is not what sold myself to him, but it was something that stood out and made him remember me more. And it's pretty unique. I also know someone who is an engineer. He actually was a part of this organization that was about farming, agriculture, and horses. So he kind of became like the horse horse boy. Obviously, that's not the selling point on why he got the job, but it did make him stand out and be memorable, and try to understand that leadership position. How does that relate to, you know, some of the other skill sets that he's developed, and how he would be a great leader and a great fit for this position. However, you know, his other experiences definitely speak for themselves. They have smart descriptions, etc. But this thing over here is just going to help you a little bit more. So this is why these are also good to add to your resume as well. So number 5, you need to make sure that you are removing fluff from your resume. So fluff is basically anything that does not add any real value and is just taking up valuable real estate on your resume. So if you have a what is it called, soft skills section on your resume, I highly suggest you go ahead and remove that. If you have a list that talks about like some of your core competencies, etc., a lot of like paragraphs on your resume, I highly suggest you remove that. And that's not to say that this information isn't good, that it's not valuable, etc. But again, like we said, recruiters only look at your resume for about a good 5 to 6 seconds. So you want to make sure that you're maximizing your time as much as possible and you're getting straight to the point. Also, I would rather you show me versus just tell me that you are adaptive, that you are a hard worker, that you are a team player, etc. And honestly, just to be totally honest with you, a lot of these skills I kind of expect you to have as a candidate, as a person who's interviewing, right? So I don't need you to list that out on your resume and take up some space that you could be instead using to add projects or leadership, etc. So go ahead and remove that section because it's not really adding any major value for you and really making you stand out. Instead, you can tell me about it versus just you can show me it versus just telling me. And also additionally, other examples of fluff could be that you have a relevant projects, or not projects, a relevant courses section on your resume, but you're like a junior or senior in college. I already know that you've taken the core competencies within your specific major, so you don't need to list that you've taken these basics because it's already assumed that you have. This is mostly for underclassmen, just to show, hey, you know, I meet the basic criteria and requirements for me to get an internship. So this is not a reason why I shouldn't, you know. Other examples could be listing any leadership on your resume or organizations that you didn't really participate in or you weren't really involved in. If someone were to ask you a question about that specific organization, and the most you can say is, you know, I just attended a few meetings here or there and conferences, then it may not be something that you want to include on your resume. It's not something, it seems obviously, that you're very confident or comfortable about, and in some ways can honestly be hurting you. So anything you add to your resume, you definitely want to have a purpose behind why it's on there. You want to include bullet points and descriptions on there, or if it is just listed on your resume, you do need to be able to speak about it in case someone asks you. And this also includes any technical or software skills you may also have listed on your resume. Number 6 is consolidating your resume down to one page. So in this video, I talk about this a little bit more and how to consolidate it, etc. I think I have another video here, but anyway, basically, I want you to consolidate your resume down to one page. If you have less than 10 years experience, I promise you that you can consolidate your resume down to one. You need to include the most relevant experience on your resume, the highest up, and yeah, we're only talking about one page right now. This is going back to how long the recruiter looks on your resume on average, 5 to 6 seconds. If you have a second page, they're most likely missing that second page and not even looking at it at all, unless you truly do capture their attention and they want to keep looking at it. So to reduce this, you know, and prevent this from happening, you need to have the most relevant and pertinent information up top, and everything else that's kind of supporting, maybe less important, kind of follows as far as your different sections. But with that said, you know, if you really feel like, you know, the last time I updated my resume, I barely had room for it and it's one page exactly, like I can't do anything more to make it fit, I promise you, you can. You have different experiences on your resume that aren't as relevant anymore. You may have some leadership experience on there that's like 5 years old that you probably shouldn't have on there anymore, you know, or maybe you can just consolidate it down. You don't need to include 10 bullets about it. Now you can consolidate it down to 3 or 4 bullets. So there's different tips and tricks to do this to make sure that you're maximizing your resume space, but you probably need to consolidate or do some changes on your resume. You don't have to include everything on there. You know, if everything goes well and progresses to next steps, you can talk about more of these things during your interview, or if you're going to a career fair and you do an elevator pitch. You know, these are more things that you can speak to and talk about. Your resume doesn't have to include everything, and that's the main thing I want to discuss. But also, if you have more than 10 years experience, you have maybe 10 to 20 years experience, that's okay if you have 2 pages, but I wouldn't go anything more than that. So the first page, I would say, is going to be dedicated to the most relevant experience, just in case they don't look at the second page. And the second page can include more like experience that you might have, or the least relevant information, right? So for example, I hope this lady, she's a teacher, she's been in the game for quite some time, a few decades, and yeah, she was awesome. But like many moons ago, she did what I do currently. She worked in supply chain, she worked in purchasing, actually, the same thing I work in, and you know, she had years of experience within that, but obviously her teacher experience is more relevant to the positions that she is applying to now. So with that said, basically I updated her resume and I made the first page only about teaching, and the second page had some of her other experience so that she didn't have any time gaps on her resume. And this is also important information, right? And transferable skills, of course, but also including her education and some other sections that just may have not been as important. But the first one is basically a teacher resume, the teacher experience, teacher leadership experience, etc. on this first page. So with that said, you know, again, if you have experience where you may have been in a specific industry or a specific type of job, let's say for her example, she did teaching. She's done several teaching roles within like the last 10 years. But there was no need for me to have one separate position for every single year she was a teacher, just because it varied a little bit. Instead, we took 10 years of teaching and we can combine it into one specific experience, and we were able to, basically highlight on all the different things that she's done across the years that are very similar. And so this is the same thing. Even if you work in different industries, you can still bucketize some of your information so that it doesn't make your resume so completely long, and try to maximize the space. Because again, if there's any clarity or any questions, you can speak to this during the elevator pitch, the interview, etc. So if you need help with that, you can reach out to a mentor or coach. I do resume makeovers like I help this lady here, and I'm going to be able to do that for you, or I can assist you in order to get everything down to 1 page or 2 pages to really maximize and have the best resume for you. So number 7 is to show, not tell. So this is kind of reiterating what was already discussed before, but I really want to make sure this is clearly understood, right? I don't want you to just list things on your resume. As much as you can, you really need to explain how or why. Again, like mentioned in the last tip, which is the 1 page, right? You don't have to list everything on your resume either, because you can talk about these during your elevator pitch. You can also talk about this during your interview, etc. So don't feel the need to list everything on your resume and tell everyone. You can definitely show this and talk about it more. I've also seen people who have like a technical background in like computer science, computer engineering, etc. They feel the need to list all the software skills that they have. Java, JavaScript, Java, blah, 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 C, C++, CS, da, da, da. These are all very similar, Instead of listing every single one that you can keep it as simple as Java Suite, C Suite. And then even if there's some systems that are very similar to one another, that's okay. Companies want to know, like, if you know 1 or 2 of them, then you kind of know all of them. It's pretty versatile, especially if you work in that field, and you guys may know this a little bit better than me. But the point is, you don't have to list everything on your resume. You want to keep it to the highlights, the most important information, the most relevant information, the things that that company will actually probably be familiar with and know. And if it gets asked later, you can definitely bring up, well, hey, no, I know so much more than just this, right? So just wanted to reiterate this point and let y'all know, to show, not just tell. Those are all my tips. If you apply all of these, you are sure to have the perfect resume that will appeal to recruiters and get them in your DMs on LinkedIn, or definitely be calling you back about next steps as far as interviews and more. If you like this video and you learned something new, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. You can also check out these other videos over here that are related to professional development. If you want to stay connected with me on my social media, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at tips_by Tailor, where I talk about more free tips. I have funny reels sometimes, and I also talk about announcements of different programs and boot camps that I have coming up. So if you want to stay in the know on that, that's the best place to get that information first. If you do want to get more help with your resume, with the resume makeover, where I basically complete your whole resume for you, you want to get some mock interview practice, or you want help with the entire application process from start to finish, then reach out to me on my website, taylorosmith.com, or you can email me. I'll put that in the description box. But we can schedule a preliminary consultation or look to schedule your first session with you in order to get you the help you need and get noticed by those recruiters. So until then, happy job hunting, and I will talk to you guys soon. Y'all take care. Bye.